So now I want to show you kind of a powerful framework that you can use in Java to execute threads and to control the execution of threads. And really this framework allows you to create threads and think of them as different pieces of work or work items. And this is the executor pattern. And in Java we can use an executor to basically execute our threads. But we can kind of set a policy by using different executors. The executor is going to use anything that implements this runnable interface. And if you remember, with our continuous printer, we had changed this so that it implements this runnable interface. And using this runnable interface, it basically can behave like a thread when we had passed it to a thread. So we had used a thread and we had done a new thread and passed it in our continuous printer, and it was able to run it as a thread. Within an executor, we can run the same thread, but we can have a lot more power over this. In fact, we don't have to run it multi-threaded, so this is a real advantage if you want to later reconfigure your application and control how the threading works. So I'm going to create an executor service. And this is an interface here. We will call this object executor. And I'm going to import the package here, and then we are going to use this class called executors. And on this executors is the static class. We have all these methods for creating new executors. And these are some of the built-in executors that exist in Java. You can always extend executor or implement the interface and create your own. But in this case, we are just going to use some of these built-in ones because that is a little bit more of an advanced topic that you are not going to get into right now. But let's go ahead and create an executor that is going to basically allow us to create what is known as a thread pool. So we are going to create a new fixed thread pool executor, and we are going to specify the number of threads. And let's specify it as 3 threads here. So what this is going to do is, it is going to allow us to run a maximum of 3 threads at a time, and we are going to tell the executor what we want to execute. So we are going to call executor.submit, and then we are going to give it our runnable interface. So in this case, our continuous printer implements runnable so we can submit it. Let's submit a bunch of jobs here, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So we are going to tell the executor to run this 6 times, run 6 different threads here, and then at the end we need to tell the executor to shut down when we are done giving it work to do. And what this will do is it will go ahead and let us finish running the threads that are actively running, but it won't accept any more jobs. And this is just to know that it's done. We are done submitting jobs to it. So I'm going to run this, and before I run this, I want you to think about what's going to happen here. We are only going to allow 3 threads to run at a time. So how is this output going to look when we run this? Well, let's take a look here and see what happens. I'm going to scroll all the way up to the beginning, and you can see here we have got everything starting at 0. 0, 0, and then 0. So we have got our main thread and 3 threads running, all starting at 0. Then they are all kind of running here and it's kind of interleaved, but they are kind of staying roughly in the same count. It looks like the main thread is stopped a little bit, rapid here. It is not getting enough time, but they are generally staying with pace. We can see we have 3 threads running. So now I'm going to scroll all the way down to where the main thread ends, where it is done. Now you can see what's going to happen here is, oh, what's this? We are starting at 0 again. So a new thread is starting up. And then as we are watching these run, you can see another new thread is going to start up here, and so on. And so what's happening from that output, you can tell that we are only running a max of 3 threads at a time. So we are getting the first three that are submitted. Those are running along with main, and then when those are done, it is running these next three, or it is actually putting them in whenever there is an empty thread. The max threads that we are ever having at any one time is 3. Now what do you think will happen if I increase this to 10? Let's go ahead and clear this output and we will run this again here. Now let's look at this output here. I'm scrolling all the way up to the top again, and you can see now, see all these zeros, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 zeros that I see up here. So we are running all the threads at one time, and you can see it is interleaved with this main thread, and they are basically all running at the same time. And if I scroll down here to where the main thread ends, you can see there is not any new thread or threads starting up. These other threads are finishing up, but nothing's starting up new. So that is kind of how that thread pool works. And we kind of got that for free. We didn't have to implement our own thread pool. It is kind of complicated to implement a thread pool, but these executors allow us to apply a policy to our threading. So for example, let's change this out, and instead of using a fixed thread pool, let's use an executor that is a new single thread executor. So this is only going to run everything in one single thread. So what do you think is going to happen when we run this? Let's go ahead and run this and see what happens here. Let's look at the output here, starting up from the beginning here. You can see here that everything is running sequentially. You can see that it is running each thread from 0 to 99, and then it is starting the next thread. So what we have done here is we have been able to change the policy of how this threading happens in our application without really doing anything. We just change it out the executor. So that's really the value of using an executor in your code, and it's not that hard. All you have to do is make sure that you have something that implements runnable, and then you can submit your jobs to this executor, and this executor service will run them with the policy that you specified by your executor.